Hi, I'm Sam B from Sam's Room, and today let's talk about the philosophy of horror. In recent years, I have found a strange attraction to the horror genre. Sure, we all love a good thrill, but I refuse to believe that was the only reason I read hundreds and hundreds of pages worth of this rich genre. It always felt surreal after finishing a really good story, and I found myself better for reading it. After a long time of pondering and a very insightful conversation with my stoned cousin, I finally believe I have a deeper understanding of the genre and the value within it. Keep in mind, this is based off of my personal thoughts and experience with the genre. If you disagree, I'd be happy to have a respectful conversation about it. Without any further ado, let's get started. First of all, we need to answer an important question. What is horror? It seems like a fairly simple question. It is a feeling of immense fear. This is true, but let's dig a bit deeper into fear. Fear comes from feeling vulnerable. Many things make people feel vulnerability, whether it be a giant Lovecraftian beast or when Jason stabs the typical jock named Chad in a movie. Feeling vulnerable is what horror is all about. Facing one's mortality and understanding there are some things one will never understand or comprehend creates vulnerability. This is horror. And as you can tell from the examples, there are many types of horror as well. There are endless different classifications of horror, but I'm going to just focus on general differences between horror in film and horror in literature. Let's start with the more heavily critiqued side, films. Many claim horror films to be far too predictable, chock full of one-dimensional characters and plot holes. In many cases, this does hold very true, but this can still have its purpose. I understand the role horror movies can play on a first date or a late night with your friends, but generally this is the product that most people think of when they think of horror. This is mostly a superficial idea of horror, lacking so much in what literature has and lacking most of the purpose of the horror genre. It takes the wonders of horror stories and strips it of its substance. But what is the substance in scary stories? Horror stories are vastly different from horror movies. Movies have the advantage that they can show you the exact grotesque scene they want to show the viewer. But this is also the film's greatest weakness. H.P. Lovecraft once said, "The oldest and strangest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strangest kind of fear is fear of the unknown." Film loses the excitement of imagination. A story uses words to describe a scene or monster, but the reader's imagination runs wild, thinking of all the many possibilities of what this beast or disgusting stage looks like. This personal experience and idea of a story touches a far deeper and petrifying feeling of fright that the reader comes up with on their own. It is a way of facing one's own demons and fears. Alright, so we have defined horror as a sense of vulnerability by facing the incomprehensible, but why does this matter if you do this? This feeling makes us believe we are small in this giant universe, and it reminds us how big everything else is. This evokes anxiety in the reader, and the realization of grandeur brings out a sense of being humbled. How do these two emotions combine into something positive? Anxiety and existential dread are not inherently good things, but by reading horror we experience these emotions and it pushes us into deeper thought. It forces the reader to ponder their mortality, think on their own purpose, and this helps us make sense of the large, confusing world around us. When we really take a step back and look at our own existence, we don't know what to do about it. When we are forced to face these questions head on, we start to understand more, and this quells the fear we face every day and helps us understand what is truly important in life. Horror is an outlet to greater thinking. Horror can also make humor out of the unknown. One of my personal favorite authors, Vincent Venicava, is fantastic at this. In his book, Just a Little Terrible, a collection of his favorite flash fiction stories he's written, Venicava highlights some of the horrific irony of life. A great example of this is one story called Immortal, where a man is searching for immortality and finds a monastery containing an old gatekeeper. The gatekeeper leads him to a door which behind it has the secret to immortality, or so the narrator thought. He opened the door to a blinding, painful light, and after he managed to shut the door, the narrator realizes the old gatekeeper and him had switched bodies. He became a far older man, and when he looked upon his own body, one could imagine he must have believed his body to be far younger after that. The narrator was obsessive in his quest for immortality. He even wasted his prime years of life trying to cheat the inevitable, fearing the unknown to such an extent it led to his own downfall. There's a clear irony in Venicava's short story, and a message about not letting fear run our lives. Horror uses this humorous irony to once again remind us of our vulnerability and helping us find acceptance in this. I was originally going to have another part about the importance of writing horror, but I'll save that for a bonus shorter episode. Alright, in conclusion, I believe horror is important because it pushes us to face the unknown, inciting existential dread and anxiety, which allows us to search for acceptance in this cruel fate in a controlled, thrilling environment. I'm sure many of you believe I am thinking way too deep into such a simple thing, but I hope you'll at least find something interesting from this analysis. I personally love horror very much, and I'm assuming if you watch this far into the video, you do too. And this is my personal way of celebrating this wonderful genre that has touched the hearts and crept into the dreams of many. Thank you for listening, and I wish all of you the best of luck in braving the unknown. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. We really appreciate it. This is the second episode in our Let's Talk About series. As I mentioned earlier, it's just kind of a riff-raff of different stuff. This is all about just my personal love for horror and existential philosophy as well. And I hope you guys really enjoyed it and thought there was something of interest here. I mean, this is just how I see it all. I mean, I could be totally off, or you could very much relate with this. But alrighty, I want to give some shoutouts, just some little plugs. We have a Discord server. If you're interested, ask us, give us any ideas for the Let's Talk About series or anything else you really got going on. As you saw, the footage there was from my stream. I was streaming The Forest with my friend Parker. The stream name is up top if you want to check it out. If not, that's cool too. Glad you had fun with the horror. This channel, we also do a lot of speedrunning content and just an amalgamation of stuff, really. So if you're interested, stick around. We'll have something back for you later. Thanks again for making it to the end, and I hope to see you guys next time.